Hey, good evening. This is Fredo bringing you the word of the day. Today we're gonna be talking about the bread, the bread um, of life. Um, Jesus in John said that he was the bread that came down from heaven. Um, the bread, unlike the bread that the fathers of the people that were listening to him ate manna that came from heaven. They ate it, but they die. But he says, "I am the bread that came from heaven, and whoever eats from me will not die." And so we wonder, okay, what kind of bread is it? Is it like uh, uh, we usually in Hispanic cultures don't eat bread a lot. The people that are American eat more bread than the Hispanic culture, but we do eat tortillas a lot. So our bread, it's is the tortilla, um, just like bread, sandwich bread will be for the Americans, and for the culture of Jesus, it's almost like a tortilla too. It's like a cracker, like an unleavened bread. So what kind of bread is this? What kind of bread is this? The descended from heaven gives life to whoever eats from this bread. And does it have to be something physical? Like when you partake in the communion, the peace of God, the communion of God, are you are you only partaking it because you're actually physically holding a piece of bread, or you partaking of his blood by drinking, having a little cup? I mean, do you need something physical in order to partake? We're gonna see a very good example when even Jesus brings it up, because there was this woman who was not from Israel. She was a Gentile, but probably heard Israel was very popular. Judaism was very popular in the time of Jesus. They had the temple. They were the spiritual center place. So the people knew about Judaism. I don't know if people know more today. I mean, yeah, I would say that a lot of people would think when it comes to the Jewish people, they will say the Ten Commandments. They do have this sort of distance, but that they heard about God. So, but in the time of Jesus, they were very popular. They were very popular. They even convert other people to Judaism. They still do it today, but it was more popular back then. And they have more power. They have a great power, and so 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 this woman, she probably knew about Judaism, and she even comes to Jesus, calling him son of David. Son of David, have mercy on me. She had a daughter that was demon possessed. But when we think about demon possessions, we think of the Hollywood movies where they're crossing their eyes, they're like turning their head, and they're like levitating. That could be one aspect, or like the persons like in the graves, naked and acting all crazy. That could be one aspect, but there's more to it, and one of the main things that they had back then in the time of Jesus was the associated sickness, infirmities, disease with spiritual demons. You will see when Jesus is casting out demons, or uh, sickness away. It's kicking sickness out. Like the boy that has some kind of epileptic, that Jesus was able to cast the demon out. And I'm pretty sure that this lady, her daughter wasn't um, possessed in a sense that she was acting crazy. She was probably sick. She was probably sick, and the reason I say that is because the bread of the children are is healing. The bread of the children is healing, and but this there's more to this bread that is actually Jesus as a bread, because he said, I am the bread. So when he mentions the bread to the lady, he brings something important, because he makes a point. He's teaching us that he is what kind of bread he is, what kind of um, a, a bread that is also associated with flesh. Bread has a very close association with flesh, and it also has, in the Hebrew word, bread. It has an association with fight, with resistance. So it all plays out pretty well. So when he makes the statement of the bread, and not only did he not have a bread, there was no bread. He was the bread. He is the bread. And not only that, was the daughter of this lady not present, so she was able to partake of the bread, the flesh of Jesus, in a remote location where she was. As soon as Jesus agreed, the deliverance happens. The bread of deliverance. So this is a very important bread. A very important bread, because we are going to need it. And what surprised me today as I was reading it, and I think I've seen it before, but today it was like kind of like stands out. It's not for outsiders. It's the children's bread. So if she's talking, if the situation is a demon possession, whether the daughter was sick or was acting weird, like we normally associate it with demon possession, Jesus not only mentions associates the bread of deliverance, which is he is the bread of deliverance, but associates with a demon being delivered from a demon, and he mentions it's the children's. It's for the inside people, and usually we don't think Christians, inside people, would have any problems with demons, but that might not be the case. Um, there is a need to partake of this bread of deliverance from Jesus. We need it, because we are in a constant deliverance. We are getting deliverance. Our way of thinking, the culture that influences us. There's a whole bunch of stuff. I mean, think about Paul being a Jew, very fanatic Jew, and very very strict Jew, and he was delivered from that. It's just that things fall from her eyes, literally, like scales fall from his eyes. It was big deliverance, taking somebody who was Jew oriented, who thought Jesus was zero trash, to change him, and to see him that Jesus is actually the God of Israel, the God that came in the flesh, and now he is the God of Israel. So it takes deliverance. It takes deliverance. So that's probably why Jesus say in Matthew 15:26, he says, he answered, it isn't right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. It is not right to take the children's bread. If it's the deliverance, if it's a bread of deliverance, that means that it's catered specifically not to outsiders. We know that they have demons and everything, but it's catered specifically for the kids of the kingdom, the children's bread, and that's deliverance. Whether we need deliverance from this or from that, it's constant. It's constant changing, renewing our mind, changing our mind. So we see uh, verse 21, that's where the story starts. On Matthew 15, when Jesus left there, he withdrew to the area of Tyre and Sidon, probably areas close to Israel. Just then, a Canaanite woman from that region kept crying out, "Have mercy on me, Lord, Son of David. My daughter is severely tormented by a demon." I'm thinking it was a sickness. It was some kind of sickness that and back then they associated with spirits. Today it's we think it's a natural process. We have this thing where we separate science and religion kind of thing, and we don't see things as spiritual, but they just trick us. They just trick us. But back then they did see sickness as a spiritual entity that was tormenting people, whether through pain, through physical disability. I mean, in one occasion, Jesus cast out the demon of mute and blindness. So yeah, mute and blindness. So the spirit caused blindness and mute, and the person wasn't able to speak because of this demon, of this unclean spirit. So Jesus did not say a word to her because, I mean, he knew she wasn't a Jew. She was a Gentile, and apparently son of David was a term for the Jewish people only. So he didn't reply. His disciple approached him and urged him, "Send her away because she's crying out after us." He replied, "I wasn't sent only to the lost sheep of the house of Israel." This is his own people. So this bread of deliverance, being able to deliver us, is for his own people. He says, I was able to, I was sent only to the sheep, the house of Israel. But she came, but she probably overheard him, and she came and knelt down before him and said, "Lord, help me." But he answered. Now he gives it an answer. "It isn't right," and this is what gets my attention, because nothing about bread has come up. She's just asking for deliverance of her daughter's demon. She wants the demon to go away from her daughter, to be delivered of the power of the demon. And so nothing about bread comes up, except that he brings it up. It isn't right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs. So now Jesus is talking about bread, and we know that he is the bread of heaven. And now he says, "I cannot give this bread myself to her daughter. I have to. It's for their own. It's not that his own children are not. They don't need deliverance. It's just that it's for them, not for the outsiders." So she heard that, and says, "Yes, Lord," she said, "yet even the dogs eat the crumbs that fall from the table's master, from their master table." So now she acknowledged this idea, this concept of Jesus being the bread, and as him being the bread, causing deliverance for whoever eats it. And she knows her daughter needs to eat it so she can be free from the demon. And she acknowledges, "Okay, I am not gonna leave without any piece of this bread. I need it for my daughter." So she says, "Lord, even the dogs," because she was called a dog. So she says, "Even the dogs eat crumbs that fall," and that moved the heart of Jesus. And Jesus replied to her, "Woman, your faith is great. Let it be done for you as you want." And from that moment, her daughter was healed. So it was sickness, but it was a demon causing it, and she was healed. Her daughter was able to eat Jesus, because remember, bread is flesh. So the flesh of Jesus is the bread of God, and his blood is the drink. So her daughter was able to benefit from her mother getting a piece a crumb. Even a crumb would be enough, but Jesus gives her bread for her daughter, and she's delivered from that moment. And miracle happened. There was no physical bread. Jesus is the bread. And we know what kind of bread is it. It's a bread that brings healing, deliverance, prosperity. It's a bread of deliverance from evil. So there's nothing like if you've been tormented by a physical infirmity or by a mental infirmity, to associate to grasp this concept of the bread of the flesh of Jesus and eat it. It's a bread that is given to us. At this moment, the bread was only for the Jewish people, but as soon as Jesus went to the cross, his flesh was available to everybody. That's what he says, I will be lifted up and I will draw all men towards me, so that we can be delivered through his flesh. That's the message for today. God bless you. I'll see you in the next video.